Hi friends, it's Chrissy, and after 6 and a bit hours of driving yesterday, Kyle and I arrived at Zea Mays. We are here for a 2-week residency where we are going to print, and we're so excited. We want to take you on a tour of our studio space, so let's head over there and take a look. Look at how cute our green door is! Isn't it the cutest? Let's go inside. This is our private studio. I'm going to show you around, but first we even have a bathroom. Let's head over to the printing press. Printing press. This is the beautiful press that we're gonna get to use to print our etchings on. I don't know if I've ever used a wheel like this before. Maybe litho? Fresh sheet of copper. Giant roll of newspaper. Beautiful flat file drawers. All of the things we need to unpack. Let's do that. Kyle will walk you through what we brought.
Rather than a packing video, we're gonna do an unpacking video and show you what we brought and hope that what we brought was what we intended to bring. And we didn't forget anything, because I definitely packed the entire car and forgot our complete tote of all of the printmaking materials before we left the house. So I'm glad that we remembered that at the last minute. We brought a portfolio case of paper and of kind of different flat items. We brought some newsprint. So let's take a peek. Wrapped in newsprint, wrapped in plastic is, I don't know, maybe 30 sheets of Revere paper, which is like a 300 GSM heavyweight paper. We brought one of our sheets of copper. My copper's not as shiny as their copper.
No, it isn't.
The luster of the left sheet is so much more than the luster of the right sheet. One single cutting mat. We brought a couple rulers and an L square. So hopefully this will help us with plate registration and with just making sure things are square. I have a mixture of sandpaper. I have 320, I have 2000, I have a 60 grit, which we will not be using because I would never use 60 grit on plate. But then we have some 00 steel wool sandpapery pads. This is what will actually hopefully get my plate to look like their plate. I don't think that it will, but I'll get closer, and that's what's important. We are in the Zea Mays print studio. Here is, I'm gonna make sure I don't walk into anything. This is the teaching studio, which is the very first studio that we saw, and I thought that this was the whole print studio, but it's not. There's like even more studio than just this. So every student that comes in and takes workshops gets their own table, and it looks like every table's like equipped with like a caddy full of like basic chemicals for cleaning up, which is like soy salt, some estosol, vegetable oil, and then soapy water, I think. We're gonna keep going this way. This is Lola. I think that's the name of this press. I'm gonna assume by this beautiful little tiny sign here. It looks quite lovely. This is their cleaning out station, also their etching station. Kind of like this whole line here is all of like plate prep work. So on this end of the station, it looks like we have saline copper sulfate etch, and we have some more cleaning supplies, rags, and like this is where we were working to clean our plates after they came out of the ferric chloride. And along the back here is like the instructions of how to do acrylic resist copper plate etching in ferric chloride. There is like instructions for each of the different chemistry. The big ground, and then like over there we have a couple more things such as like the coffee lift. And then they have like a little plaque that, it's not a plaque, it's an informational didactic panel that tells you how to remove each of the grounds and what chemistry to use. I found it really easy to be in here and just to be like, what do I need to do? We were going to do step 5. It was very straightforward, and I didn't feel like I had to like constantly ask the tech, like, what's my next step? How do you do this? I do it normally this way. I'm just like, airbrush booth area. They have the range hood. This is like where you would do anything that would have smelly chemicals, and the really loud exhaust fan would pull it all out of the space. We've used this while we've been here. This has been quite lovely to work in, instead of having to like fully equip into a respirator, go outside and like be, well, in the most ventilated space possible. This is a very nice containment unit for working on the plates that we're working on. And this is the tote that we almost forgot. That was probably the most important thing of our entire trip. This contains our studio. Well, not all of our studio, but like pretty large chunk of it. So let's see what we brought. We're not going to climb into the tote because that's a suffocation risk. We have 2 aprons. This is Chrissy's and mine. They can live here.
The real challenge will be repacking up and trying not to forget anything in a drawer or...
That's very true. Uniformed. Lint-free towels for wiping plate. Our caulking gun, which will be for ink. We have our very large ferric chloride gloves. This will be what we use for when we use the crazy tank over there for etching the plate. We have goggles. We have half of a respirator, because somewhere in here, the respirator cartridges. Some nitrile gloves. This is to keep our fingies clean. These were test plates. We'll take a look at those later. This is our new fancy airbrush. So I'm very excited about that. Let's make a little pile. Hair dryer, heat gun. This is a loop. This is a very small magnifying glass that when you look through, it makes things bigger. India ink. This will hopefully let us color our ground or color our aqua tint so that we can actually see what we're doing.
But we don't know what aqua tint we're going to be using because we have not been introduced to it yet.
Yes, Kirsty's very right. We don't know what aqua tint we're actually using. I have a suspicion of what the process will be and what the chemistry will be, but I think that it'll be slightly different than what I've used before, and this India ink is what I've used before to help color the ground. So like our aqua tint is normally this stuff, which is Speedball screen filler, GAC 200 acrylic binder. This plus acrylic ink is sometimes what I've made our ground with, or I have used black Coir Noir India ink to help color it. This is our go-to aqua tinting chemistry, and I'm curious to see how this little pile differs from what Liz has here in her studio. And now we have this really awesome big ground. It's like a pre-made chemistry and specifically for non-toxic acrylic resist etching. This is the top of the landing. We're stopping here because here is the apartment and the member studio. So this apartment is where Chrissy and I are staying while we're doing this residency. And this is the member studio. I didn't realize that there was 2 different studios, but this is a whole other shop, which is like really bloody cool. This is Liz's office. I'm gonna assume that all of the totes here are like individual studio members. We have another like really big paper preparing area, and then I see a bunch of copper down along the bottom. I see more different types of paper. This is a funny little shuttle cart bar thingy. I guess this is your paper grippers. Yeah, okay. That makes sense. I understand what's going on here. Pretty. We have some big fancy wood block type. Yes, so the first space here on on your right, this looks to be like for those doing letterpress. So we have a platinum press, and then we have also this very large shuttle cart. We have a central drawing rack to the upstairs studio, as well as print flattening cabinet. So like that seems to be like letterpress land. We have a nice little etching press here. Man, they have so many presses. It's lovely. We have tools, we have a clean out sink, and then we have even more workspaces over here. But man, how cool is it? Every station seems to have like a clean table and then like a dirty table that's also attached to it. That's pretty rad. Another tackage, man, so many tackage presses, it's wild. Oh, this guy feels pretty nice too. Oh, it glides. So lovely. And so like this is a little break room kitchenette area back here. Baby powder or talcum. But what we will be using this for is while taking gloves on and off, your hands become crazy sweaty, like a hot mess kind of sweaty. And this will help us kind of change between gloved hands and non-gloved hands and allow us to like put our sweaty ass hands back into the gloves. A traditional leather dabber, roller, I'm not really sure what the exact term is for. This was gifted to us by Peter Menaker, and he left this to us so that what we would typically do is you would ink up this pad and then you would rock this pad onto the plate to apply ink. So we're gonna give this a go. I've never used one of these to do etching and I'm kind of curious. It's in like very good condition and I'm stoked. Normally you like scrape all the ink into it, but I think with this one, it was like boop, boop. 2 metal files. This will let us kind of work through our plate prep. We're gonna use these to grind down the edges of the plate to make kind of like a bevel so that when it goes through the crazy pressure of the press, it's not going to distort the press or wreck the paper or hurt anything. Knives, scissors, like things to cut stuff with, like super important, super, not crazy special, but super, super important. This is my Kirkland brand 3,000 feet of saran wrap that I've been using for like 10 years now. And I don't think it's like put a single dent into this roll. So this will be with me forever.
We're at Smith College. We decided that we wanted to take a little trip into town, gather some research from the botanical gardens here, and then we're gonna use that, or I'm gonna use that rather, to bring it back into the print shop to work on my plate. I'm very excited. I love a botanical garden. It just ends. I thought it like went this way, but it just ends. Back out. It's like going on a jungle safari in the middle of rural Massachusetts. This is like heaven. Look at these. What even is this? Do you have a place that is like mentally 100% for you, but then like physically not for you? That is me at the Botanical Gardens. I am like in my happiest place ever, but being in the greenhouses, like I just become a sweaty puddle of a person. So we're taking a little breather outside, but I have like just so enjoyed being here. It's free, which is amazing. And inside there's like one space that feels like you're basically in a rainforest, like just huge plants, beautiful leaves, so many textures. I love it.
This will probably be a box that I'm gonna kind of just leave packed up for the moment, but we're gonna kind of share some things that we have here. So I have brought our etching inks.
These are oil-based inks, and so we're going to see what Liz would like us to use. Whether or not we want to be using oil-based inks or not, that's kind of up to the studio. And then we brought all these little goodies. Over the years that we've been attending the Southern Graphics Conference, we've been collecting like testers and samples. I'm kind of curious to just hear what the studio has to say about like what inks that they feel have been like not the most non-toxic and they've had the best results with. And so we've had a couple like little Cranfield testers, and then we have some more traditional Charbonnel etching inks. So we just have like a small selection of Charbonnel, we have some Cranfield, we have a couple Gamblin things, and then we have like a whole box full of graphic chemical etching inks. What do we have in the green box?
Really good taste.
We have really good taste. Live your most authentic self. This is a mixture of like tools. We've brought a bunch of palette knives. Obviously the studio has some palette knives, as I see them kind of hanging out on the rack here. So we'll probably use our own knives because why not? We brought some, I don't know, green tape, some washi tape. This is probably like the go-to printmaking tape. That's, I don't know, just green pages tape is the most valuable thing in a studio, in my opinion. A whole bunch of little cards. So all of these little cards is what we will use to spread the ink into the plate. Now, I did talk about this dabber as an alternative to applying the ink. Just some newsprint. This is gonna be what we use to wipe our plate with and kind of get rid of most of the ink before we print. And then this is our little etching toolkit. So this is a burnisher. This is for like flattening marks out and trying to erase. We have a couple steel and like really sharp needles. This is what we will draw with. Then we have a couple like basic like dry point steel twisted needles which have two spiky points, and like this is very typical etching kind of tool. This is the member space. There are 4 sets of flat files that have prints from members here so that when the general public comes, they can look at art, because that's what we're making in the print studio is art.
So how it works is members from Zea Mays can submit up to 10 pieces to be in the flat files, and these go up on the website. They're here for people to review. As far as I understand, they're juried, so only a select group of works gets brought into the member space, and then people can come and they can look through the work, and it also gets displayed on the walls here through like sort of shows that come up and come down. So each member that gets their work selected to be part of the flat files gets these beautiful folios, and then the pieces that are accepted in are then here for flip through and on the website, which I just think is like a beautiful, it's such a beautiful project and way to showcase the work that's being made in the space. Aren't these gorgeous? Swing, swing, swing. That's my best sword sheen sound. Kyle and I are working on getting our plates ready for our heart ground, and then we will draw into them. So just doing a little degreasing today, and then we're gonna be putting the heart ground on. Kyle cut this beautiful plate. Look how cool this shape is. I love it.
That's our studio tour. We checked out the member space, we checked out the teaching space, a bunch of dark rooms. I oddly get excited when we go to the dark rooms, don't know why. But then we are going to actually make stuff here in this space, and we have that coming up in our next video. So hang out, join in, tune in, and we're going to be making some acrylic resist aqua tints. Stay tuned.
What are the secrets of studio practice?